and welcome back to the Renegade Ventures podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today and to talk about different types of ownership that she's experienced. But before we get started, Maggie, how have you been? How is business? Give everyone an update.
It's like your hair is longer, and I'm like, has it been that long since I've seen you? Your hair just seems
Me?
Yes, your hair
Oh, I
just looks
got
different.
bangs. I got
Yeah, okay,
bangs.
that's what it is. I'm like, something's different.
Yeah, no, I like did a whole identity switch. Like I could go be a secret agent right now if I wanted
Now you
to. You
look
know,
like a serial killer. You look like you could just, take someone out. You look tough. I love it.
give me a full suit of leather and I'm ready to go.
Look out. Look out. Stay on your good side. Well, it's great to be here. I am excited about our guest because she's someone I deeply admire as well as a friend. So that's always my combination. And my update these days is I'm still working on building my new speaking business and finishing my book. Yesterday, I got a chance to do a 3-hour coaching with some business owners in South Africa. So that was really interesting it's the first time I've really done like a whole 3-hour online training. I usually do this stuff live. So it was really different. And the book is coming along great. I've gotten great feedback from my advanced readers, and I just have to get the nerve to like send my final draft off to the publisher for editing. So
exciting and terrifying. I'm so excited for you.
it's terrifying because I know it'll just be like a wave of like, here are your edits, take a look at them. And writing a book is hard, but I think for me, the hardest part is this redigesting. It's like you're constantly reading what you wrote to a point where you're like, this is complete garbage. You just think it's terrible. And everyone in the book publishing business is like, this is normal. You should hate it by now. I'm like, okay, well then we're on target. So
check. That's
I
awesome.
hate it. But
yeah, I think that would be very difficult. I don't even love watching the recordings of us doing this. So like hearing my own voice or my own thoughts, it's just a weird vortex. But you told me in the episode we recently released that like part of success is climbing Cringe Mountain. And so I feel like this
I'm
is
high
you.
on Cringe Mountain. I'm
Yeah.
fully exposed on Cringe Mountain, looking around like, is anyone seeing this? But it's good. That's how you learn, is you got to get out there and get cringy and get past it. So I'm looking forward to sending this off and seeing what the next stage is like.
It'll be exciting, and I can't wait to read it in depth and hear more about it. Today, we are getting to talk to Lauren, who has probably had her own Cringe Mountain. Lauren Coulter is the owner of Biscuit Belly, and her story is really unique and very cool in a way that I think will be relatable for our audience, because I believe that a lot of people just assume that entrepreneurs planned on being entrepreneurs, but Lauren and her husband both started off as pharmacists. So Lauren, welcome to the show. I cannot wait to hear your story. So why don't you just start off by telling us the high level version of who you are and how you got here.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. Just to start with, I wrote down what you just said. Part of success is climbing Cringe Mountain, and I think I'm gonna put it somewhere because we are the queens of looking back at work we did years ago and being like, oh. But also, I mean, look where we are now. So I love this. It's definitely showing love to something that otherwise you might be like, oh, this is so bad. But anyways, thanks for having me on. Yes, my husband and I both are pharmacists by training and had zero plans of getting into the restaurant industry. I would say, pretty conservative in the risk-taking category. I'm super anti-risk. I grew up in a very traditional home. My mom worked the same place 30 years. And I think that really I was looking for safety and security in a degree and in a profession. Honestly, I got into pharmacy because my parents got a divorce when I was 15, 16, and we were not left in the best financial position. And my mother said to me, go and get you a degree in something where you can support yourself. And at the time, pharmacy was booming. They were, pharmacists went from making, I think, like 60, 70 grand a year to over $100,000 a year in a very short time span. So by the time I graduated, they were, doing 3 weeks vacation. And I had just passed the era of like a car and a $50,000 bonus and like crazy things. So, anyways, fast forward, met my husband, Chad, through Pharmacy World. And we both were working these jobs, but we had dual income, no kids, and just thought, we'll do some things on the side. And so we opened up a paint and sip business. It did really well. We sold a lot of wine despite it being really crappy wine. Kind of looked around our city of Louisville and thought, hey, this is, Bourbonville and a lot of beer here, but very few approachable wine places. And so we opened up a place called Luvino. And I mean, literally the first night of working in a full service restaurant was us two. I'm cleaning and polishing glassware, and he's on the dish machine, just pushing out dishes, glassware. And so I would say that we learned really quickly how to be a part of this and kind of where we fit in. We were both lucky to have roles where we could do this on the side and then kind of gradually step back. So he did first. He stepped back from his role. And I think that kind of met my need of safety and security. Like I kept working, and it was just, building trust that we could really do this. We grew Luvino to 5 locations, but it was all very, how much money do we have in the bank? Okay, let's do this now. It wasn't thoughtful or
Strategic. Wasn't strategic.
No
Yeah.
strategy, no intentionality. So it was just like, well, a lot of people told us we should open up a restaurant in Cincinnati. Let's do that, so.
Can I ask you a question? I want to go back to
Yeah.
something that you said that I think I really want to emphasize, and that is that you went from pharmacy into a paint and sip business. And then in the paint and sip business, you learned, oh, there's good money in selling wine. So if people are willing to buy this wine, this okay wine, what would happen if we sold some really great wine? And I really want to emphasize that because I think it is a fascinating thing about entrepreneurship is you never know what you're going to learn from the moment that you're in.
100.
Like you didn't go into this paint and sip going, this is a gateway to a restaurant. But you guys were astute enough to see the profit and see what was really driving this and working and what drew you. And I think a lot of people miss that if they're looking at entrepreneurship from the outside in is like, you follow this plan, you follow this, first I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this. And it's not at all like that. It is often very much like you're in a business and then you realize, oh, I really don't want to own this anymore, or I've gotten everything I want out of this. And now I see what is possible next. And you guys, you guys are the epitome of that, like of seeing a business model, experiencing it, and then being like, but what if we did this?
Yeah.
So I just want to point out that dynamic is pretty cool.
Well,
It is.
yeah, you're right. It's such an interesting space to be in, to be somewhere and be comfortable, but then look around and see opportunity and think that could be even better. And so I think we've spent a lot of time doing that. I mean, even when we had the Luvino, we were opening those. It was between 4 and 5. And honestly, I give my husband the props on kind of the vision. He was pestering me. I mean, if anyone knows Chad Coulter, he will pester you until he gets what he wants. It can be a no. You can say no, but he will keep being like, hey, and kind of poking the bear. And he kept saying, Lauren, these biscuit places are opening. People like biscuits. And I was the one saying, listen, we're from Georgia. We like our biscuits. Nobody up here, Louisville is posh. They do not like their biscuits. They're not going to like this. And we just started seeing the openings of these things. And so we took a leap of faith in some ways. Biscuit Belly was different from Luvino in that there was much more intentionality around it. We spent a lot of time branding and figuring out our colors and the logo and our little biscuit man and what do we want people to see and feel when they walk in. We had, over a year's worth of conversations prior to opening, whereas it was not like that with Luvino. So I think to your point, learning as we go, figuring out what people might like, and then really understanding what is needed to hopefully have success from the get-go it was just a totally different path for Biscuit Belly than it was for Luvino.
And I want to bring up one thing just so that the listener has like the context. You talked about not having any strategy around, you were just like, let's try this and then let's try this. And that Luvino grew without maybe a lot of strategy. But you also mentioned the whole time you actually kept your full-time job as a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And I remember when meeting you years and years ago, and you were still a pharmacist, and you were 4 or 5 locations into these things and working it. And I remember you even saying the words like, I like it this way because we have something to fall back on. And so while there might not have been the strategy, there was this balance between Chad's vision and your safety and security that you were never you were taking calculated risks. You were taking calculated risks towards a vision and towards a goal while keeping your family and children and security in mind. Because you did all of this with children.
Yeah, I mean, I was pregnant when we opened Luvino. And so, it's just, that piece is definitely wild. I had a job at a large healthcare company here in Louisville, and I luckily had a really good leader who I went to and said, look, we're doing all these things. I'm going to need to step away because I need to find something part-time. At the point where Chad had stepped away part-time, then he had stepped away entirely. I was at the point where, okay, I'm willing to step back to part-time. And he said, I understand we don't have full-time things here. We'll figure it out. And he literally came back to me and an hour later and said, what if we can make you part-time on our team? And I was like, yes, because then all I had to do was come less, come do the stuff there less. And so it was just a really good fit for me. And at that point, when we first opened Biscuit Belly, I would be working and I'd drive a Lime scooter like down 1 mile and do taste tests with our team of things and like see how it all is coming together. And for that part was really fun to me, being able to do both. And then the cool thing too was like, everyone there was like, Lauren, what are you doing? We want to come, we want to check it out. And so I had this, built-in base of supporters. And that was just, I don't know. I learned a lot of lessons there about how to be a good leader, what people look like in a leader. My job wasn't super exciting, but my boss was he took care of us, and I learned a lot from that era of my life.
That's amazing. And so when did you officially leave?
Fun fact there, I officially left. So in December of 2019, I put in my notice for March of 2020. I gave them a 3-month notice and they were like, we understand. At that point, we were going to do the franchising thing. We knew we wanted to do it, but we just really needed one of us to be able to lock in and focus on that. And y'all, my last day was the day they sent all Humana home for the first employee having COVID, and they've never gone back. So like no one was there. They were waiting on lunch to be delivered. They did like a little send-off lunch to me. And that was my last day. It's just like I'm getting chills when I think about it because we were so tight and now it's just so different, that team. But it was really scary to me then COVID happening. And for the first time, my little conservative heart was like, oh my goodness, but being able to be around for my team, for Chad, be kind of this glue of support was really helpful. I don't ever, I mean, COVID was one of the hardest times I think of mine and Chad's lives. And a lot of it was just around the uncertainty of it all. But then, uh, our team, our chefs, like we still had 5 Luvino locations. We had, I think, 2 Biscuit Bellies at the time. And my chefs at Luvino would like show up at our house just crying, and they'd be like, you know, I didn't become a chef to put things in boxes. I became a chef to engage with people. And I just think that speaks so, I'm getting like chills and, it speaks so much to like what the hospitality industry is about at its core. And I think why I've been able to thrive here is they want to give you a feeling, and what more do we want in life? I mean, I want people to feel like loved and held and safe. And we do it through food. And so it's just, I don't know, it's really special to me. My husband's definitely been able to be more of the vision and like pushing us forward and making changes and, figuring out when was the right time to exit Luvino so that we could focus solely on Biscuit Belly. How are we going to go about franchising? There's a lot of work that goes into that. So that's totally different from running just a business day to day. So being able to be a big part of that, I think it really helped like secure my space, like your space in the pieces that I own of our company.
So when you and Chad decided you were going to do Biscuit Belly, you knew early on you were going to franchise it. I mean, that was your intent. And so how does that change your entrepreneurial experience moving from sort of like frontline in front of the client to being a franchisor where really your job is to sell franchises and cultivate these entrepreneurs? So tell me, first of all, I'm curious about how you guys knew you wanted a franchise, because it is a huge, huge endeavor to franchise something. And then secondly, how has that experience been different for you as an entrepreneur?
Well, at the time, we were very like we opened 2, and it was like, okay, we can get in and open this for, $600,000. And in the restaurant world, a lot of your money is spent in kitchen equipment. So, we still had kind of this full kitchen that we would need. But other than that, there wasn't huge, huge costs, I mean, associated with it. Like a lot of franchise organizations that you see that do really well, but it costs $1.5–2 million to build a freestanding store. And we didn't need that. So we were able to just look at the unit economics, and it made it at least appealing to franchise. And I went down the whole path of like reading. So You Think You Want a Franchise? I think that's the name of the book. And it really dove into, should you franchise? Should you license? Or should you just remain a corporate entity? And I think that we had so much success doing what we were doing that honestly, I thought this is going to be easy. I've never been so wrong in my life. Franchising is
It's adorable.
beast. We're looking for such, your customer who you're looking to sell to is totally different than your customer coming into the store, right? And so you have to figure out who that is and who we thought we wanted. I mean, years ago, I'm just so like Cringe Mountain. I mean, we were really looking for people who knew restaurants and were in it and knew the restaurant game, and all they had to learn was Biscuit Belly, and it would be so easy for them. And what we've learned is we are a craft casual concept. We still make a lot in-house, and that is very different from the experience at a lot of restaurant franchisors. So, a lot of places, they get things in on a truck, they heat it up, they serve it. And we did not fully grasp how different that would be, and how like training people to be extremely guest focused. I mean, we are like, hey, how are you? We touch tables, we clean up after you, we do all this extra work. And when you have somebody that's in 30 or 40 truly fast food chain concepts, it's a totally different experience, right?
Yeah, you had to like retrain versus needing someone who was fresh to learn your way.
And a guest goes into, like, as a consumer, my level of expectation at certain fast food chains is super low. I'm not looking to see what the Yelp reviews say for McDonald's. I just know I want my bacon, egg, and cheese. That's it. But for us, being small, being a higher price point, being new, guest feedback is the most important thing and can really make or break your restaurant, I believe. Especially here in Louisville, where we have such a close, like, culinary community. It's crazy how those first few weeks of guest feedback really dictate some of the longevity of your, how well you make it.
I want to make sure for our listeners that we go back a few steps because you talked about the process of deciding whether or not you should just own another different type of business, another type of restaurant business, license that model, or franchise that model. And then you talked about the unit economics. And one of my biggest goals for this podcast is that we're not only just telling the stories, but we're educating through them. And so can you tell us a little bit about what is the differences and why did Biscuit Belly check the boxes, whereas maybe Livino didn't?
That's a great question. A few things. Scalability. So when I think about Livino, I think about a lot of money. I think about these big spaces where training, I mean, we had 60 to 70 wines by the glass, and to have a team who can speak to that, the training, y'all, was so long. And how many of us have gone to a restaurant and said, "What's your favorite," to the person, "What's your favorite Pinot Noir?" And they're like, let me look at the menu. No, 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 no,
I
no.
don't
That's not
drink
what I
wine.
asked.
I don't
That
drink
is
wine.
not,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so we had some amazing people there who knew wine, and they were exactly what you would want, but the training piece was so long. So it was costly, a long training piece. The other piece of it was you both, I know, have been to Luvino, and we let this core few staples were always on the menu. So I think we had our tots and our Brussels and our I can't even remember now. This is so sad. Like, these core items that we kept, but then based on region, we let the chef have some creativity. And so, this side of the menu was a little funky, a little wild, a little chef's whimmy. And I mean, there's no way you can scale that. You can. It's incredibly challenging. I don't think we were up for that challenge. So transitioned into Biscuit Belly, where our training process now, I mean, we train a whole crew of people in 4 days when we do a new store opening. It's intense, it's long days, but it is 4 days. And so in 1 day, we can have people in there working. There's this process to it. Our GM training is longer and more robust, but in terms of just like being open, the people that you'll engage with day to day, it's much more efficient. So that's one piece. And then again, the unit economics of just what it costs to build it out and what your return can be. In the restaurant space, a lot of people think about like 30, 30, 30, 10, like 30% cost of goods and a 30% labor. And, any point below that you can get is obviously going to increase, it just flows through to the bottom line. And so we we are able, even though we have these heavy, we're heavy meat, we're a lot of chicken and a lot of dairy, and when there's bird flu, egg prices are crazy, and we have a lot of eggs, but still we're able to consolidate in a way, and we have a good mix in a way that all of those cost of goods pieces come down. Our labor, how we do our front of house with tipping, our back of house at a higher price point without tipping, or a higher wage point without tipping. It just all kind of lends itself to the unit economics of a fast casual or fast food chain. the reason we didn't go down the licensing path, one of the biggest differences there is all about how much control you have. And for us, and also I've learned more and more, I need all the control, like all the control. And at first, licensing is very appealing because you give them the logo and you give them the menu and then you piece and we'll take a little, license fee, but you have zero legal or like oversight ability. And for us in the restaurant space, that is so freaking important. And so we just knew, that's not going to work.
So, explain to our listeners, for those who don't understand the difference between licensing and franchising, give them a quick primer just so they understand the difference.
I would just say the quick and dirty is much more contractual engagement. There are responsibilities of the franchisor. We have to, provide A, B, and C. And then the franchisee has to give us A, B, and C. But also, we have brand standards that they have to meet. I feel like it's a much more defined relationship, whereas a license is like, there can be different levels of this, but it's a bit more of you're paying for the logo. And for restaurants, we give you the menu. But if you want to serve them on, some of your grandmama's plates, you can. And if you want different tables, you can. And it's just a little more.
The way that it was once explained to me, and I felt like maybe this is helpful, and I would by no means say that I am a expert, but that when you think about licensing, think about like licensing the Disney brand so that you're allowed to put a Mickey Mouse on a sweatshirt that you're making and then selling. But when you're franchising, there is you're buying a business in a box.
Yes.
And
when you're in business together,
yes.
I mean, you're on.
Yeah.
It's almost a partnership. It's a true partnership
yes,
as opposed to.
That's a good point.
Like,
and so for someone considering buying into something, I personally don't think I would ever buy into a licensing deal. I looked at one and it, in that scenario, really pushed the line or the boundary of doing licensing to skirt franchise law.
Yes.
Rather than it being a better deal. And so for a person considering being on like Maggie's side of the franchisee situation, there is franchise law that comes around. And so it keeps it quote unquote safer for everyone in the relationship because you have to meet certain standards on both sides. And that's not necessarily as legally true. I'm not saying that there's not good licensing deals out there. I just would be wary.
And it's interesting, when we were first kind of deciding, a group kind of pitched to us, license it first and then transition to franchising. And I was like, no,
That sounds messy.
not for me.
that sounds like you're going to have a bunch of rogue stores who are doing what they want. And then you have these franchise stores who are like, well, how come they get to do that? To me, that is just like, you want to bake in some arguments and conflicts, do it that way.
Exactly. No.
So where are you all now? So how many stores are you at? How is that growth going?
Well, this is a really good topic that I never knew existed prior to this. We were like, okay, clearly we're going to open stores. And why wouldn't we just open all the stores for ourselves? Why would we even go through franchising? Money, right? If we had $1 bajillion in our back pocket, we would just go open these stores. But growth happens quicker with other people's money. And so franchising, it was appealing. We did it. And then we started having people coming up to us and saying, I don't really want to run a restaurant, but I would love to buy into Biscuit Belly. And of course you do. Like now our part, is done, not done. But we've kind of proven this model. So we went down a totally different path that I didn't know existed called joint ventures. And we raised capital and went into it with this thing of, okay, we're raising money and we're going to open 5 stores with this bucket of money. And they don't technically own Biscuit Belly LLC. They own a different entity that owns stores. And for us, the best thing about this arrangement is we manage them. We are in control. We treat them like our team. They know the differences, but they don't treat them any different than the stores that are right here. So that has been a great avenue of growth for us as well, where like it meets my need of safety, security. Lauren and Chad's home isn't being, put on the dotted line for this restaurant. But I don't know. When Chad was first kind of talking to me about it, I was like, what? What? I didn't even know this was a thing. And so it's been a definite learning curve, but honestly, it's my preferred method of growth now. I mean,
It's a blend of franchise model and joint venture model. And so do you own a portion of every joint venture? So you're both the franchisor and the franchisee?
yes. So we are basically, we
Interesting.
own a piece. So
That is cool.
this is smart because it makes sure that we do our part too, right? That we're keeping things accountable.
You have skin in the game.
We
You
have skin in the game.
too.
But yeah, then we have this group of people who, they get a piece of the pie of this pie and how well these 5 stores do. So we've opened 4 stores currently. A 5th one is being opened in the spring, for that group. And so there's no plans to open more than that. And then we did some cool things where like we have a preset buyout. If at some point we're like, we want to buy those stores back, like we have the multiple already kind of figured out in there and baked in. So that was a lesson learned that has been really helpful. And we've also had the people that did this, like they're not beating us down. They're not owners of Biscuit Belly. They're not knocking on our door every day. Like, why did you do this? They know that they are funding this and they pretty much stay off our backs. Like Chad provides updates. It's pretty easy.
Works both like a startup model, like with investors, and a franchise model. I just love how many options there are out there. Like, I just absolutely adore how many different ways you can
Sometimes
do
too many,
things.
right?
Choose your own adventure. You get to choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
That's what I love about entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Pick your Cringe Mountain and get climbing. So
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
Tell us what your secret is of working with your spouse.
Hey, this is a full circle moment because Maggie, I remember reading something that you wrote and it said, you and your husband were working together and you'll have very clear lanes. And I would say the same is true of Chad and I. He is all things real estate. He is vision in terms of like change, changing the menu. Oh my gosh, he is so passionate about, can anything be better? Like, okay, there's this heavy cream that is significantly cheaper. Let's make some biscuits. Let's try it with this heavy cream. We're going to taste it. Nope, not as good. We're keeping our current heavy cream. So he's just constantly doing like supply chain work. I mean, constantly. To have 13 Biscuit Bellies, we're in 6 distribution centers of our broadliners. So it's just, that is like a communications crazy. Do they have this? Do they have this? Does everyone have this? I do more of the people piece in terms of like our team technically reports to me and I have weekly one-on-ones. What can we get out of your way? What can we do to make your job easier? I mean, I pretty much just am a cheerleader / doer of the things that no one else either wants to do or has the capacity to do. We, a few years ago, really understood that with growth, we had to hire some people that were a lot smarter than us. And, for small business, that means we're paying a lot more for people than we ever thought we would. But with that comes, oh my gosh, so much clarity, so much just, they are the experts. And so we don't have to be. We have a VP of training who was at Texas Roadhouse from store 3 to store 300. She was the VP of training at Torchy's Tacos. And, we have all this good restaurant, all these incredible restaurant people and knowledge and skill in our backyard, being here in Louisville, with Texas Roadhouse being founded here and Papa John's and KFC. And so all this goodness here that we're able to tap into. But when we started making those hires, it really helped us define our lanes. And so a lot of times we're like, Chad, get out. As the owner, it's easy to be
Well,
meddling.
he's like a crazy inventor. Like that's how
Yes.
I would describe
Yeah.
the personality, like a
Yes.
Einstein
visionary.
kind of character, go visionary, go,
Yes.
go,
In the
go,
lab, trying to
random
mix things
Yes.
things.
together,
Well,
figuring
Yeah.
it out.
a lot of times my role with him is he'll say, I've been thinking about this thing. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I just kind of write it down, keep it in the back of my mind. Don't do anything. Take 0 action. Do not tell a single soul. And then a few weeks go by and I'm like, so about that blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah, no. So a lot of it is, protecting, insulating your team from these kind of squirrel moments that the visionary has. And sometimes that's challenging when it's your partner, right? We're together all day. We're together at night, but it's comical. People are like, you guys work together, you live together. I'm like, we drive separately to work. We each are doing our own thing. I don't know what's on his call, what all he's working on today. He doesn't know what I'm working on today. So we just have very different roles in
Yeah.
this business. So it's kind of fun.
It's funny you say, that you call back to Maggie's. And when Brad and I started working together, Maggie was one of the first people I talked to. And the lane thing, I mean, the wisdom, Maggie, you just spewing wisdom that you don't even know is just like,
I've made so many mistakes. I've climbed so many cringe mountains. I'm here to help you all as much as I can.
I also find it hilarious because, Lauren, you were talking to the two visionaries of their other half.
I know.
The,
You all
they
own
have
her.
to wrangle us.
Yes. So are your spouses kind of the integrator role or is somebody else?
We have completely separate lanes, but Brad is far more in the weeds and the details of how we do this well, how we podcast well, how we video well, how our software is built well. His role is how we do it well, whereas mine is far more visionary in people and management and money.
Yeah, I would say with me, it's he's the gas, I'm the gas, and he's the brakes, and so he's the finance guy and HR and insurance and all of that liability. So he's always like, "Oh no," and I'm always like, "Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Just let's just keep going." And he's like, no, wait, really, just pause a minute." So we learn to listen to each other and trust each other. There are times that he's like, "This idea you have is not good, and I'm going to tell you the reasons." And then sometimes I'm like, "Well, no, we're going to do this." So we got to get comfortable, and so we have to kind of give and take to each other.
Yeah, same. I mean, Chad is very good about taking in our feedback and at times saying, I hear you. We're still doing this. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. The other thing I think that I do really well for our team is level set on the capacity that we all have. We're tiny. We have a marketing director, and then she has a minion. This girl who grew up with Biscuit Belly, was our front of house person, and she does marketing for us. She does tech, all of our point of sale stuff, make sure everything integrates with DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. I mean, this girl is wearing 12 hats, and my goal for 26 is to take some of those hats off of her, depending on how things fall out. But then we've got an operations guy and a person who helps with culinary and our VP of training. And so we have 5 people, women, Chad and I, who are really overseeing all of this. Luckily, we've got some incredible GMs. And I think that's where having people smarter than us in our operations person, in our training person, has then brought on these general managers who, they're true operators of the store. We let them make their budgets, make their, sales goals, make them really decide how they're going to run their store, and we give them a piece of the pies. That's just how we do it so that they have a stake.
I think that you're making a really strong point that I want to make sure that our listeners hear, and it is the evolution of a good business owner to a great business owner. It's the evolution of a business that is sellable versus a business that is not. And it is in this idea or concept of hiring people who are better than you at specific things and not being afraid of that and not being afraid of giving them space to do it. And it's an evolution that I feel like I'm going through right now myself, is realizing that there are areas of our business that I am still the expert in or the highest level of knowledge in. And that's not true across all the areas, but realizing there are some areas that I really need either a full-time person or an external person to be the advisor, because I shouldn't be the smartest. Or else we're built around me, and that means I'm holding too much. And I don't even know how I got here. Honestly, to be completely blatant and honest, I bought this company thinking, this idea that I wouldn't be the center of it. And yet I somehow still got there. And so it's one of those moments of I need to take an internal look at myself and an internal look at how we hire and how internal look at how we promote and how internal look at how we think about these things. And am I afraid to hire people that are smarter than me? And I think that sometimes people need to self-assess if they are the smartest person in the room, that you might be doing something wrong. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in my room. I didn't mean it like that. But I mean making sure that you have other subject matter experts talking about bringing the Texas Roadhouse trainer for their franchises to Biscuit Belly. There's no world where you were going to have her experience.
Mm-hmm. No.
Right?
Nope.
Right. And I think that sometimes the exercise is as simple as drawing your organizational chart of your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
That if you could, where would you put yourself in the chart and what would be your responsibilities? And that means you have to hire da, 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 da.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean that plan doesn't change, but it sometimes helps you realize I do need those smarter people. And it is worth hiring and cultivating that because it lets me do this at such a high level. Some of it is just hiring people so you can do the work as an owner you're supposed to be doing that literally no one else can do unless you allow yourself to do it.
Exactly. And I mean, my husband is the king of, we've worked all day and I want to come home and play with my kid and hang out and sleep. And he busts his computer back out and he's working. And we've definitely had those conversations of, okay, what are the pieces that you don't enjoy doing? And then maybe let's find a person, what could that look like? And as a small business, you are weighing, what can I afford? But what we've learned is sometimes when you can't afford it, you actually can, because you do it. And then to Maggie's point, you get to do other things that really push the business forward, and
you can't afford not to. You can't
yeah.
afford.
Yeah. And that's a lesson that we had to learn. And just around people, the people that open 3 to 4 for us in the restaurant space, the people who got us to 5 aren't the same people that can get us to 50. And so that was kind of what we were thinking about when we hired Lisa. Was, okay, we need somebody that's done this before. I can't even imagine a world of having 50 of these. What does that look like? So,
Yeah.
But it's been worth every penny that we spend,
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What a story.
Well, Lauren, thank you for coming and telling us your story and being so open and honest. And it's evident how centered you are on people and keeping it aligned with your all's goals and visions, and how strategic you are being this time around in that evolution.
Yes.
And so I appreciate you coming and sharing with us and taking the time to meet with us. Do you have any last thoughts, or how can people if they're interested in a joint venture or being a franchisee,
Oh.
how can they find you?
Yeah, hit me up. I mean, we're on, all the socials, Biscuit Belly Biscuits. I'm on Instagram, but most of our franchise partners come from visiting a store, and that's the most incredible thing. You can do all the sales tactics and SEO on a website and spamming people, but there's nothing like a person coming in and having the experience and wanting to take that back. So really come have a little bite to eat and check out our locations and come have
Highly
some.
recommend. Highly recommend.
Yeah,
Me too. Thank you, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Resonate.